Good morning. It is 6:32 a.m. on Thursday, April 6th, 2017. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I can't talk. I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Somehow the interruption made me feel like had something else I was supposed to say there. This is 5 more minutes, and this is the rest of 5 more minutes. So many levels went great last night. I continue to really enjoy that. I miss it when we can't do one for the week. And last week was a rough week for my gaming purposes because 3 separate instances of trying to plan to do some sort of gaming all fell through for various reasons. But these things happen. Last night, however, gaming happened, and it was good. In particular, what we focused on last night was there's an oncoming threat for the heroes that they must face, an army of hobgoblins that wants them personally for some reason, and nobody's quite sure why. And one of the neat things about last night's session was watching them in character talk through what they thought they should do. And it's a fascinating thing that only really seems to happen in this type of game because there's not like a trick to it. There's not a right answer. There is just what they think. I've put them into a situation where there's no obvious right answer. There's not a right path. It's just that there's going to be potential consequences and ramifications of whatever they choose. But that's the fun, is watching them kind of talk through it and decide what their path forward is. Now, the one thing that it occurs to me that I have to keep in mind is it's one thing to say, oh, well, the situation is always complex. There's never going to be a completely right answer, a completely wrong answer. There's going to be both good and bad that comes out of any given situation. But one of the lessons that I learned, or at least I felt like I had gleaned from an earlier session, was that sometimes you want to give them just a win. And so I need to keep that in mind as I've developed this, this current plot line. I want to make sure that it's not a situation where they get ground down over time through moral complexity and exhaustion that nothing ever seems to go their way. Sometimes you want to just give them the win, but also sometimes you want to turn the screws. It's competing impulse, because one of the things that I always kind of had a problem with doing when I was doing improv scenes is I had an inclination to want to solve the problem instead of exacerbate it. Because in an improv scene, let's say you have someone come into a shoe store and demand that they should be given all of the right shoes immediately and for free. Now, obviously, this is an unreasonable request, and the hows and whys and so on of why they're asking for that and how everyone else around them might respond are what the scene is going to be all about. And so for a character playing the shoe store owner to treat that as a reasonable request and very reasonably try to talk through what might be a reasonable compromise not only doesn't make sense from the perspective of why would the shoe store owner treat the character that way, but also if they come to an agreement, then the scene is over, and what happened? Nothing. So that's something that I sometimes struggle with in an improv situation, is this impulse to be peacemaker and resolve tension, which is the opposite of what you want in an improv scene. And so you could argue that that's the same situation here, Do we want to have the way the world responds be constantly tightening the tension, making things worse no matter what they do, punishing any decision they make just in order to keep the tension going? Well, that's fun for a while, but it could get exhausting. So finding that balance for myself is one of the fun things about being a dungeon master. So continue to like Dungeons and Dragons. And my webcam software once again is doing that weird thing where it seems to have temporarily frozen up for reasons that are entirely unclear to me, and I'm hoping that this part of the video is not going to be cut off for some reason. And at least in most of the instances where that happens for me, I review the video later and it's fine, so who knows? But in any case, I will talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.